Hello students, we're going to learn how to make a Celtic knot, and I'm going to show you the steps one at a time from beginning to end for those of you who were not in my class when I did this. Firstly, a video is going on YouTube, so I want to thank Alicia Marchuka for this lesson. She shared this lesson with us in a Baltimore City Public Schools professional development session. Oh gosh, probably 13, 14 years ago now. And I've been using it ever since. I've made changes of my own, but the credit for the original lesson is hers. So I want to make sure that she gets credit for that. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the supplies that we're using. We have this worksheet that Alicia made that helps us to draw the piece, the slice as we call it, that is going to have a pattern that repeats in the round to create a radial design. We need a piece of paper that is at least 10 inches square. If it's 12 inches square, you get a nice margin. This one is 11 inches square, cannot be smaller than 10 inches square. You need scissors, you're going to need a Sharpie, you're going to need a pen, 2 pencils, and some masking tape. The first thing that you want to do for this is you're going to tape these pencils together, and you see how I'm arranging this so that these pencils are at the same level. They're the points are, one's not like this, one's not like this, or any variation thereof. They are perfectly even so that they're going to stand on those points when I put them on the table. Then you're going to need to tear off some masking tape and tape those together. Why? That shall become clear momentarily. I'm just taping this tape over here on the edge of my desk just to get it out of my way for the moment. So I'm going to arrange my pencils again so that they are perfectly even. And I'm going to tape them together. Now, this is something I've done when I've created ribbon lettering, when I've taught students how to make 3D ribbon lettering. So you can do this for that, but today we're doing it to make Celtic knots. We're going to make our little slice pattern. So now I've got 2 pencils taped together. They're sturdy. The next thing that I'm going to do is draw your attention to what this writing on this worksheet says. Right here, it says outside edge, no lines off this side. You don't want any of your lines coming off of this edge. You want your lines coming from this side and going off that side. The other thing I'm going to draw your attention to is I like to color in a little teardrop down here at the corner so that when I am tracing this, which you'll understand in a minute, I can see that this dark point is pointing to the center. Okay? Now I'm going to write in small letters, top, so that once I cut this out, I'll know this is the top. And I'm going to write my name up here because all of you are going to need to keep track of these slices to the end of the project. And you don't want someone swiping your slice and making their own design with it. This is your slice, okay? So now that I've done that, I'm going to make a ribbon slice. And I'm going to draw 4 ribbons from one side to the other, okay? I'm going to turn this over right now because I want to show you something. You do not want to do this. That's what I do when I'm teaching ribbon lettering. That is going to mess you up, okay? You want to make sure that your ribbons, you bend your wrist and you keep those lines parallel, okay? And if you have little imperfections like that, you can clean them up later, okay? but the most important thing is for them to stay parallel. You see these designs on these Celtic knots here? They are parallel. They're not all twisted and skinny in one place and fat in another place. So I'm going to draw 4 ribbons. I'm going to put one down in this space, and I'm going to go as high as up here because I don't want to have a big hole in the middle of my design, okay? So I'm going to start down here. And I'm going to make one go from down in the middle to way up at the top. Now look at how I'm curving off this side. The open end is not going up here. It's going off this side. All right, now I'm going to make one go from here. Now, if you have a hard time turning your wrist, turn the paper. Turn the paper. Okay, so I'm going to go I think I'll go there. I also want to say you want all 4 of your ribbons to connect to both sides. I have some students who will have one go from here and come right off here. Then you end up with a bunch of closed shapes. You want shapes that connect continuously throughout the design. See, like that? If you go off of here and then off of here again, you're going to get a closed shape. Okay, now let's see. Let's do another one. I'm going to make another one here. There. And then I'm going to do one more. Let's see. I think I'll do one up here. And I'm going to have it come down in between there. And then I'm going to come all the way down here. Now look how I avoided having 3 ribbons cross in one place. That's also really important because you're going to lose track of where your ribbon is going. All right, once you've got 4 ribbons, so let's count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 4 ribbons going off of this side, off of this side. Now I have to decide which ribbon is going to overlap and which one's going to go underneath. So I'm going to start with an overlap. So this one's going to go over this one. So I'm going to erase these lines. Okay. All right. And this one, since it went over here, I'm going to make it go under this one. So now I'm going to erase those lines. Okay. It's important that you do this. We're going to trace this with a Sharpie in a minute, and you want to get it all right before you trace with a Sharpie, otherwise you're going to get confused. Now I went over here, so it's going to go under this one. All right, so let's erase these lines. All right, and now because it went under here, it's going to go over this one. So I'm going to erase these lines. And I'm going to like redraw some of these lines just to emphasize which one is over, which one is under, so that when I go to trace with a Sharpie, I'm not confused. Okay. All right, now, while I'm down here, I see that this one goes under here, so I'm going to make it go over this one. Oops, excuse me, I erased the wrong one. So I'm going to make it go over. So I want to redraw these lines. It can be very confusing. That's why you want to do this before you put the Sharpie on it. Then since it went over here, it's going to go under this one. So I'm going to erase these lines. Okay, so I'll redraw these. And since it went under this one, well, and I don't have anything else to overlap there, I'm done with that one. Now, I have this ribbon that goes over this ribbon and under this ribbon. So now it's got to go over this ribbon, and I think this is my last one. Yep, that's the last one. All right, so I'm done, and I've got a pattern that I can trace to make a Celtic knot, an infinity knot, okay? So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've finished this, is I am going to trace my design. And I'm going to do that before I cut it out. And I'm moving my square paper because I don't want to have my Sharpie come through this onto the square paper. So let's trace these lines. And the reason that you want to trace these lines with a Sharpie is because you're going to be tracing this pattern onto this piece of paper, and you want to be able to see the lines through the paper. And seeing pencil through paper that isn't tracing paper is going to be really hard. So you need to trace it with something nice and solid and dark. Okay. This is pretty quick. This is the most complicated part of the whole process, making this slice. I have some students who say the most complicated part is the tracing, but I'm going to show you how to make that easy, okay? All right, so I have all of my lines traced on one side of the paper. Now I'm going to flip it. Now look, my marker came through, which makes it really convenient for me to trace this side also. So I'm going to trace on top of that bleed that's coming through the paper so that when I flip my slice, I can see the design on both sides really easily through my paper. So I made a little mistake there, doesn't matter. I'm going to be tracing with pencil. Now, if you make a big mistake, you might want to get some white out and fix it. And I don't really feel like I need to fix that, but I'm going to, just to show you how easy it is to fix if you trace it wrong. Okay. So there, now I've got my little curve back in there, and I'm just going to trace right over that white out. And I'll trace that. Okay, so now I've traced on both sides of my slice. Now that I've done that, I'm going to cut this out. And I'm going to cut it out exactly. And you'll see why I wrote top on this edge, because now I don't have those notes on the piece of paper that I'm cutting this out from, right? So, but because I wrote top and my name on there, first of all, people will not be able to steal my slice. And second of all, I always know where the top is and where the bottom is. This is the part that's pointing to the middle. This is the top, okay? All right, now I'm going to show you a handy dandy little trick. I'm going to take two pieces of masking tape, and I'm going to take one with the sticky part facing away from me and one with the sticky part facing towards me. And now I'm just going to set that aside for a moment, okay? And I'm going to move my tools out here. Now I have an 11-inch square. You can go as small as 10 inches, and I wouldn't go bigger than 12, because if you go bigger than 12, you're going to have a huge white margin on the outside. Now to get this, this was a sheet of paper in my sketchbook, and the way that I made a square was in the sketchbook. I just folded the outside edge. This was 11 by 14, so I folded this edge over to the spiral side, and that gave me a square, okay? And then I just cut the extra paper off of here. If that's what you're doing at home with the sketchbook paper, that's how you do it. Then you're halfway to where you need to be to get your triangle sections that you're going to trace your slice into. So you're going to fold your paper corner to corner so that you have a big triangle, and then you're going to fold it corner to corner on the fold edge. All right, so I've got my cut edges are up here, and I've got a fold here, and I've got two folds here. Then I'm going to fold it corner to corner on the folded edge one more time. Okay. Whoops. All right. And then once I've done that, well, first of all, before I unfold that, I'm going to show you why I did that. Look at how my triangle piece fits nice and snug down into that folded triangle. Okay. Now I'm going to unfold my paper, and I'm going to fold it back on itself so it doesn't, you know, like creep up on me from the table, because I want it to lay nice and flat while I'm drawing. All right, so now here's why I put tape, so that there's sticky facing away from me and sticky facing towards me. I'm going to start with this side up. So I'm going to tape this lightly. I'm not going to like press it down really hard. I'm just very gently going to tape that to the table so that I can just move my paper around it. And look at how nice that is. I can see my slice. There's the dark piece pointing to the corner. This side of my triangle is lining up with this fold. This side of my triangle is lining up with this fold. And now I'm just going to trace. I'm going to get a pencil that is not taped to another pencil. All right, and then I'm going to start tracing. So I'm just going to start down here, and I'm just tracing those lines again. Just 2 more lines to go. Great, so now I've got one section traced. Now here's the reason for sticky tape in both directions. I'm going to gently pull that up, and now I'm going to do it in reverse. That one down, and that one this way. I'm flipping this back and forth, because I'm going to create a mirror image, which I'm so happy that you can see. Kind of hard to see this in my classroom when I'm demonstrating it sometime. And now I'm just going to continue tracing that design. This is why you want the top clearly marked on your slice, and why you want the centerpiece clearly, or the center point clearly marked on your slice. Now here, you might notice that I'm kind of giving it a little flourish, just because at the join mark, because I think it just adds a little bit of interest rather than it just going straight across. I didn't really anticipate that when I designed my slice. That's okay. You don't want to make too many changes when you're tracing because it might not match up, but something like that is okay. Now here, I got a little confused. I didn't put the bend in, so I just erased that, and now I'm going to go back and fix that. Now I can see what I'm trying to do here. All right, now I've got two sections done. I'm going to flip it again. I'm going to flip it horizontally and then change the arrangement of the tape. Instead of rotating my triangle, I rotate my paper. I match up my ribbons, and I trace this section. And here's that little flourish that I was telling you about. I just did a little uptick there. Doesn't seem to matter because my line just went right into my little uptick. But here, it could be interesting. So I'll try it here. Don't make it too different. Part of the point of this is to, create a repeating pattern in a radially balanced design. But if we wanted it to be, perfect, like a machine made it, well, then we'd just get a machine to make it, wouldn't we? Never, ever be upset because your work isn't just perfect. Perfectionism is the enemy of creativity. It will stop us cold and keep us from moving forward, when in fact the little imperfections of our handmade art are what make them interesting most of the time. Now you can really start to see that pattern emerge. Now here's something interesting. Look what I guess that's, never mind. I thought that and that were the same, but they make a different pattern. Here, this one and this one will look the same. So see if you can notice the pattern as it emerges. Now I'm going to flip my triangle horizontally again. and I'm going to keep tracing. Now, after I finish tracing this, I will stop recording because I've already made a video about how to color these in. You're going to choose an analogous color scheme. Analogous colors are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and we have 4 ribbons, so you're going to choose 4 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. And each ribbon is going to be 1 color. All right. Now, I believe the video that I've already made shows you how to make shadows out of complementary colors. That's kind of cool. So then you can use analogous colors and complementary colors. But the shadows, okay, somehow I got off there, but that's okay. Look how I'm correcting it. The shadows, you can also enhance the shadows by adding a little pencil, but you'll see what I mean when you watch that video. I'll give you a link to that one. In fact, I'll put a link to that video in the description below this video so that you'll know exactly where to go. If you're in my class where I teach high school, then I'll put the link in your Google Classroom assignment. Now I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep matching that pattern. So I hope what you're learning from this is that the way to make a radial design, a repeating radial pattern, is that you need this triangle that has a right triangle. It's a 90-degree triangle. And you flip that triangle back and forth to create a mirror image, right? So you get 2 mirror images, the one that reflects on this side and the one that reflects on this side, okay? All right, so now I'm going to flip it again. Only got 3 more to go. If you're interested in the geometry of radial design, just ask your math teacher. I bet they'll be just so excited that you ask them a question about radial design, or about how to use geometry to create a radial design. Be sure and tell them your art teacher taught you this. So they'll be impressed that your art teacher knows a little bit about math. That's a joke. Well, I just bumped over something that was underneath the paper on my desk. I'm not sure what that was, but if that happens to you, just erase, start over with that line, not the whole thing. Yeah. All right, 2 to go. And one of the cool things about the video is that if you don't understand when you watch it the first time, what do you know? You can just rewind it and watch it again. Make sure you understand it before you proceed to the next step, okay? Yes, that's my dog, terrorizing the neighborhood, making sure nobody sneaks up on me. Apparently someone got a delivery and that UPS man must have looked really dangerous. That's what he was barking about before. Okay, just one more section and we're done. And then you can go on to the coloring. So I flip my triangle horizontally again to do this last section, and look at how nicely that matches up. Now, actually, it doesn't match up very nicely. Somehow it got wonky. Oh no, what do I do? Well, I'm going to just rotate that a little and then fill in the gaps between the lines. See, it's off a little there and it's off a little there. It doesn't matter because I can just draw it in. Where it's not exactly matched up. Not sure why it didn't match up, because I'm not a math teacher, so I don't always understand those things. Don't tell your math teacher that. Of course, that's a joke also. Okay, so I have a completed Celtic knot radial design that I can now color in. So watch the next video for how to color this.